Hello everyone, so Aquarimax here. I'm trying to get the text going. Here it goes. Here it goes. Getting the chat going. So, Newt's Commander, first one in the house. I'm trying something new for me where I'm just reading the chat off of my phone while I'm filming with the larger camera, so let's hope that works. I can see myself pretty well. The lighting's not the best, but I think it'll do. If you don't mind it, let me know what you think. I think it might be a better way for me to focus on getting the chats answered a little bit more easily without having to flip through the screen on the iPad quite as often. So we'll see how it works. We'll try it. Let's see. Chat. What do we got? We got Newt Scamander, Zero Cool, Ant Scotland, Nizogaster. Cool. And I do remember Ant Scotland. You're also Gary, right? And the Formal Top Hat. Nice to see you here. First time you've been here. That's awesome. To a live stream. Andrew Ewald. Nice to see you here as well. Daytime Deer, Toilet Pete, and Heather Jensen. Ah, yes. You can see a small portion of the big pothos in this here. Oh, it looks like I'm a little bit laggy for a second there, but yeah, the pothos actually reaches all the way to that wall and it's just a foot or two from the ceiling along that wall, and then it's, I don't know, there must be 50-60 feet of pothos in here. It's awesome. Mile High Tarantulas, greetings. What does an informal top hat look like? Like it. SK with OV. Your Cubaris marina isopods have been breeding a lot lately. Oh, cool. Nice. That is a species I haven't kept, and I don't actually have a permit to keep, so I would like to keep more Cubaris at some point. Well, I should rephrase that. I don't have a permit to sell them or to have them shipped from out of state, but it's possible to keep them anyway if I get it from in-state. Atreyu, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Killing Orphans. Ha! You've seen that old video. That's awesome. That is a very old video, but I'm glad that that was helpful. So, Daytime Deer. What do you call baby isopods? I've got to untangle my corn snake for a second. At least keep an eye on where he is. Oh, well, he's probably not doing any harm where he is right now. I think he's trying to get into the garter snake vivarium because I just fed the garter snakes some pinkies, and he probably smells that. So I think he's excited about that. It's not his feeding day because he is now on a feeding regimen of 2 mice a month, which is perfectly adequate for him at his age and size, and he's getting a little pudgy. So I'm now putting him on that diet. He gets an adult retired breeder mouse twice a month, and that's perfect for him. Maybe he'll lose a little bit of the extra pudge. So what do I call baby isopods? Well, the singular official name for it is Manca, M-A-N-C-A, sorry, and M-A-N-C-A-E is the plural. The pronunciation varies. Some people say monkey, mankai, monkey. I say usually the version because I speak Italian, and Italian is very similar to Latin. I say mankai, which is kind of how they would say it. But a lot of people say different things. That's cool. But that's the official name. You can call them other things too, juveniles, podlings. But, you know, a lot of people use different names. So, oh, Heather Jensen, Monstera adamsoni. Now, I know Monstera deliciosa, so I know it must be similar to that with the clear command hooks. That's a cool idea. I've got metal screw-in hooks that I had to drill into the what do you call it? The windowsill for my pothos. Okay. So SK. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I am tired in Cornish. Oh, that's cool. It's like with. Oh, with SK, so Squithov, like that. Did I say it right? And Andrew, yes, I have heard of pill millipedes. In fact, I have read quite a bit about the Glomeris genus is the one I know the most about. There are some isopods that apparently mimic the Glomeris genus, including Armadillidium klugi, not Armadillidium klugi, sorry, Armadillidium gestroi and Armadillidium maculatum may well be pill millipede mimics. Because all the pill millipedes, have the repugnatorial fluid to discourage predators, and the isopods don't. So it's kind of cool. And the Glomeris pill millipedes look a lot like isopods. They can be confused for isopods. They do have, of course, some important differences, like more legs. But yeah, they're very cool. Some of the Glomeris species will reproduce in captivity fairly well. A lot of the larger tropical species don't do well in captivity long term in general. But very cool creatures. Bug Slayer, welcome. Sean Meister. Yeah, the pothos is huge, and I've even cut it back, and it's some of the leaves are a good 8 to 10 inches long and probably 8 inches wide, and some of them aren't that big, but it's pretty cool. And let's see, mile high tarantulas, my favorite aquarium plant. I like a lot of them. One of them that I really like is Anubias nana petite. I really love Java fern Windelov, that particular cultivar and narrowleaf or needle leaf Java fern I really like. Let's see. I really like actually guppy grass because it's so versatile and pretty easy to grow. I've got some of that growing right now. I like dwarf water lettuce. I like Ludwigia quite a bit. Thinking back to all the different things that I've grown over the years, there's really a lot of them that I like. I like cryptocoryns too, of various types, especially Wentai, the various types of Wentai. So there's a few. It's hard to pick them. And, oh, don't go that way, buddy. We talked about your desert beetles. Sure. I'm really excited still about my captive bred blue death feigning beetle that I produced. It matured and became an adult in July, mid to late July, around the 21st, I believe, is when it emerged from its pupal form into an adult form. And it is now almost indistinguishable in color from the other adults. It's like blue now. So very excited about that. What else would you like me to mention? So Newt, language even less useful than my French. Ma veramente dipende da dove sei. Se ti trovi in Italia è molto utile. That's my response for you. Okay, Kermit the Hermit Crab. Greetings, the Arachnid Addict, hi. And Squithov. Cool, I got it. Hey Jordan, greetings. I'm really excited about the video that I made about what you sent, and it's not coming out quite yet, but it's coming out soon. I've been editing it. Very excited. Oh boy, where are you going? Here, I gotta disentangle my snake. He's getting places he shouldn't be. He's gonna go swimming or something here, and that's not cool. Not in the Daphnia enclosure. I don't want him in there, so let me just deal with that really quickly. No, buddy, come on. Gotta get him out of there. There we go. You stay where you're not gonna get into trouble, please. Okay. All right. And so Heather Jensen. Ooh, hey buddy. Okay, so Monstera Adamsona is more similar to pothos in size and shape, but the leaves get holes and not slits. Cool. So this is Mr. Skelto. He's getting very, very big. Well, not very big, but a lot bigger than he used to be. He used to fit into a Crayola pencil box, like the colored pencils, just the small box with 12 pencils in it. He used to fit in one very easily, and now he obviously wouldn't. So, theropod hunter, can dragonflies be domesticated? I think that would be tricky for a lot of reasons. I don't know that they could even be tamed very easily. And domestication would be a more difficult proposition than taming. So I would say, I don't know for sure, but I think it would be hard. And the white Anubias, I've heard of it. I haven't really seen it though. I've heard it's kind of frail compared to some of the other Anubias. Oh, pennyworts. I love pennyworts, like Creeping Jenny. Love that plant. I need to do more with it in aquariums. I've grown it before, like in the yard as a ground cover. It's a very versatile plant. And so, Newt, have I named this guy? This is Mr. Skeletal. My son named him, because it's my son's snake, actually. Yeah, Mr. Skeletal after a meme. Okay, so formal top hat. You're wondering about springtails with millipedes. You want to keep the colony alive, but not have them overpopulate a small area. Well, I would say that in general you don't have to worry about it. There will be perhaps a lot of springtails in there, but I don't have a problem with them overpopulating per se. They just sort of match the resources. So as long as you have the resources in good proportions, the springtails, there might be a lot of them, but that's not necessarily too many, because they don't really bug the millipedes, and they just keep the pests at bay and so on. So I wouldn't worry about them overpopulating. As long as you're keeping the environment correctly, you probably don't have to worry about it. They might get to a population where some people look at it and say, wow, what are all those things everywhere? That's true, but it's not necessarily a problem. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. My favorite isopod and plant. Well, I don't know about plants. There's so many plants that I enjoy. I'm a big fan of ferns of various kinds, both terrestrial and aquatic. But I don't know if those are my favorite exactly, but I do like them a lot. I like mosses and stuff. As far as isopod, really hard to say because I love so many of them. I probably would have a hard time narrowing it down to my top 5, honestly. Armadillidium-wise, I can say Armadillidium gestroy is really up there with one of my favorites. Porcellio-wise, Porcellio Blavis dairy cow and Porcellio expansus are really up there, but really hard to say. Let's see. The arachnid addict. Do you keep Cuculcania hibernalis? I think my wife would have a fit if I did. There's some pretty cool spiders, but my wife is okay with Phidippus jumping spiders, so I'm not sure she would be okay with one of those. Okay, so yes, the captive bred beetle, I did name him. The captive bred beetle. Peter at Bugs in Cyberspace suggested I call him Proteus, which I like because Proteus has to do with various things that relate to the beetle. It has to do with the firstborn. It has to do with it was a god of the sea and water in general, and since I found him in the water, and he was the firstborn of the captive bred beetles that I was breeding, and so on. There are several connections there, so I like that. So I called it Proteus. That's his name. And Theropod Hunter, thank you. I am keeping fairly well. Things are tricky with all this COVID stuff, but I'm still working for now. Still seems to be going well, and actually Aquarimax, which is, for me, it's like a side thing that I do in terms of money. I do earn some money from it, but not anywhere near enough to make a living at it, so I have a day job, but I'm doing pretty well with that. And thank you for asking. I hope you're keeping well as well. So, let's see. So Kermit the Hermit Crab. So which one are you talking about? That captive bred. Let's see. Angela, hello from Australia. Oh, thank you. Welcome. And yeah, I've seen the purple variants of ivory millipedes as well. So my Spirostreptus species 1, I think most of the young ones are finally pretty much mature. I mean, I think they have some growing to do, but I think they're like breeding size, breeding age. My old male that I got as an adult when he was, well, I don't know how old he was, but that was like 4+ years ago, something like that, right around 4 years ago. finally passed away recently. But I've got quite a few of the young ones, and I'm hoping that he actually mated with them because he was not related, as far as I know. I mean, they're in the hobby. It's possible they are related. Very likely, in fact, that they're related to some degree. But at least they were from a different generation. Hopefully, there was some genetic difference there. And yeah, I think it's a fairly good chance that they did mate, and that we're going to get some babies soon. I hope so. I changed the substrate in there not too long ago, and didn't find any eggs or babies in there at the time. That doesn't mean there weren't some, and I only changed half the substrate because it's generally how I do it. Let's see, Jay's Crazy Obsessions, welcome. Uh-oh. Heather Jensen, that doesn't sound like a good deal, does it? I hope that works out for you with that toad. Oh, thank you, Formal Top Hat. I'm glad that my interest in bugs and critters has helped increase yours. Millipedes and velvet ants even better than dogs, huh? Well, I think there are a lot of advantages that millipedes and velvet ants have that dogs don't have, and I'm sure it goes the other way too. But I like the fact that velvet ants, you can just sit and watch and don't have to take them for a walk. There's that. Have you bred more than the one blue death feigning beetle by now? Toilet Pete is asking about that. Well, yes and no. I haven't produced any mature adults yet besides that one, but I have a ton of larvae, and I think I've been improving the process this time around, because the first time I put 6 or 8 larvae in, but I had a humidity spike. Like the humidity was up above 90% at one point. And I think that killed off a lot of them, because after that humidity spike, I figured out how to keep the humidity more stable, between 75 and 80% relative humidity, which is where the beetles need it, and or the larvae, pupae, need it. And once I did that, then I put the other beetle in, and it hatched as an adult. It emerged as an adult about 9 weeks-ish after I put it in. And the other ones had been in there longer and did not emerge. So I went around and looked for them, and I didn't find any live ones. And so I know that one of the larvae had crawled out and died, and one of them, I think, just died, and I found the carcass of it. But the other ones, strangely enough, I found an isopod in there. So an isopod had been in one of the containers, and I'm not sure what species it is. It might have been Venecio parvus, but I'm not sure, in there, in one of the little deli cups. But other than that, I didn't find any. So I think, having dealt with that humidity spike and what caused it and so on, I don't think I'm going to have that problem anymore. And so now I have 9 larvae in separated deli cups, and probably at least twice that amount of larvae in the adult breeding enclosure. I don't even know how many I have. So yeah. And Angela, I do have a few wild caught animals. I try, not to. Vast majority of my animals are not wild caught. But I do have a few of my beetles that are wild caught. And like I said, I'm trying to learn how to breed. Well, I am starting to breed the blue death feigning beetle and trying to pass that information on so that others can captive breed them, because I think that's really important. And so I'm trying to share what I learned so that other people can captive breed those beetles. I think really, really important to get that out into the hobby. And velvet ants, my velvet ants are also not captive bred, because it's close to impossible to captive breed them. Most everything else is captive bred. All the other species that I have that I can think of right now are captive bred. Oh, some people gave me some Orthoporus ornatus millipedes. I don't ever purchase those because I prefer to purchase millipedes that I can captive breed, but people have donated them to me, so I keep those. But other than that, I think I'm pretty much everything's captive bred. Okay. Let's see, dragonflies. So Jay's Crazy Obsessions. Do you have a bigger pothos? That's awesome. Oh, dragonflies. Can they be captive bred? Yeah, it would have to be pretty specific. You'd probably have to have space for the adults to have nuptial flights and everything. So, how do you keep jumping spiders? Just got some. Oh, Hylas dardi. Diarda. I can never remember how to pronounce that, but anyway, they are so cool. So, I've got a couple of jumping spiders. I've kept Phidippus audax and Phidippus regius, and I have one of each right now. A little sling of audax and a larger adult female. Regius, pretty easy. I actually got this one right here. This is my Regius. She looks like she's in her hammock right now. But I love these containers. These are from bigfatfids.com. Got nice ventilation. And the way the lids are constructed, they can build their hammock up above the opening so that you don't wreck the hammock when you open it. Pretty cool. And basically keep them in here. Mist the side with water, trying not to miss the spider, a couple times a week so they can get a good drink. And then I feed mostly flies, mostly house flies. A couple, maybe 3 to 4 times a week, because she likes to eat a lot. A lot of my other ones in the past haven't eaten as much as she does. So yeah, lots of flies. She will occasionally eat crickets, mealworms, waxworm moths, waxworm larvae, other things like that. But pretty easy, actually. She likes to be warm, so I actually put her near near the basking light for my garter snakes. Close enough so that one side of the enclosure gets warm, but she still has a thermal gradient and can cool off when she wants to, and she seems to love that. So hopefully that helps. And Andrew, you can totally feed isopods pumpkin scraps. They love it. One thing I would be a little bit careful about is probably not feeding the outside as much. Make sure it's the inside, because it's going to be contaminated less with pesticides. But yeah, they love it. They totally love pumpkin. It's good for them. Any stocking suggestions for a 35-gallon fish tank? 35-gallon fish tank. Well, that would be great for like a pair of Crebensis cichlids, if you like cichlids, and you want them to be able to breed a 35-gallon, just about big enough for a pair of Crebensis. And then you could put some ditherfish up at the top, something fast-moving like Danios or something like that. I like, if you're going to do like, that would be great for a pair of Julies, Julitochromis tanganyika cichlids, or some shell dwellers even. You could do some fabulous multis in there. I have, my multi tank is a 29-gallon. I like that. Works well. If your tank is tall, you could put some interesting things like some rainbows up at the top and have your shellies down at the bottom. So there's some ideas that maybe you weren't thinking of, but they could be cool. Let's see. Ignorant Ice, what's your favorite species morph of dart frog? Well, I really love just the blue Tinctorius. That's the right one, isn't it, that I'm thinking? I really love those. I only have currently the Leucomelis, just the nominate morph of Dendrobates leucomelis, the bumblebee dart frog. That's the only one I have. But if I were to pick another one, that's probably what I get, just the blue Tinctorius. I love those. So, okay. So, formal tot hat, if you get one like a millipede or a velvetent, how do you keep your cat from being interested in them? Well, it's basically a matter of putting them in an enclosure that the cat can't get into more than anything. Because getting them to be not so interested is really hard in my experience. Arachnid addict, I'm really glad you found your velvet ant. Yeah, an escaping velvet ant is a tricky thing because they can climb glass. I'm looking over here in the corner and seeing one climb glass right now. One of my Dasymatilla gloriosa just climbed all the way from the bottom of the tank up to where the frame is and then fell down, luckily. But, it's got a secure lid. But yeah, they're pretty good at escaping if the lid's not very, very tight. Ooh, Angela, you tried keeping a red bulldog ant. Ow, that sounds scary. Scarlet Batis. Oh, I've heard of them. I've seen them. I've wanted to keep them. Never have. They look like they're not, but they look like tiny, tiny cichlids. They're very cool. Fantastic little fish. Kind of like a cichlid crust with a tiny betta or something. Very cool. Okay, so formal top hat, the coolest and most fun community I've ever done with insects so far is the desert beetles with velvet ants. And I have one right over here. I've got how many different species of velvet ants? 1, 2, 3, 4 different species of velvet ants, I think. Yeah, 4 different species of velvet ants, 8 individuals of velvet ants, and then 3 different species of beetles with 4 individuals. I could be keeping more in there. Love it. It is full of activity, especially in the evening and the early morning. Those are the best times. But there's almost always activity in there, like all day. Very, very cool, very easy to keep. Probably one of the best, absolute insect communities you can have. Some newt. Oh, you have some liverworts, cool. I have played with liverworts before. I've grown them semi-terrestrially, I guess you could say, and also aquatically. I love them. I think they're the coolest thing. I have kept it just a couple of different species, but they're amazing, so good luck with yours. Ooh, arthropod ambassadors. Those rainbow scarabs are pretty cool. They are gorgeous, in fact. I hope you have some luck with breeding those. But yeah, isopods getting in there and causing issues, it is a concern. I've heard that one of the few living creatures, according to Oren's book, one of the few living creatures that an isopod will attack is a beetle pupa. So there you go. That is a valid concern. Pocosaurus, hello, welcome. Kermit the Hermit Crab. Can you grow lucky bamboo in a vivarium terrarium? Yes. I've seen people do it. I've seen people have great success with it. I've never really tried in a vivarium or aquarium. I've tried to grow lucky bamboo, never had great success with it. But I've seen people do it, like with goldfish tanks. And Angela, I have kept centipedes in the past. Don't currently have any. We had one for about 4 years that passed away a few months ago, I guess. And I want another one. I love centipedes. I think they're awesome. It was a Scolopendra polymorpha, and I've had a couple of others in the past. Love them. I would actually be really interested in keeping a larger one, but I have to be careful because I need one with fairly weak venom or my wife won't let it in the house, because anything with medically significant venom is off the table. Mr. E. Finn, hello. And that's true, Heather Jensen. I've actually put squash and pumpkin in my my isopod enclosures, gotten sprouts, and the sprouts grow for a few days, and then they don't have enough light, they kind of die, and then the isopods eat them. But yeah, that is a thing you'd have to watch for. Oh, those are some pretty big vines. I think I have some like that too, as thick as a baby carrot. Yeah, I do. Maybe even thicker, a few here and there. They're fun. And oh, Mystery Finn, you got a Spirostreptus species 1. That's awesome. And yeah, Jay's Crazy Obsessions, it's kind of the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but this plant descends from my parents' plant they got like 30 years ago. So it's in the family. And Horrific Dude. Hey, you saw 8 velvet ants, captured 3, they're thriving. That's awesome. And Alex, I don't actually keep tarantulas because that's one of the things that's off the table. My wife has really only made 3 requests about what I keep and don't keep. No tarantulas, no roaches of any kind. So those 2 are off the table. Anything with medically significant venom, also off the table. So I don't keep any tarantulas. Oh yeah, bumblebee toads are cool. I've thought about those too. I may do those at some point. In Australia, you can't own exotic beetles, amphibians, reptiles, and other stuff. That's true. And you have to get a license for even native species. Yeah, I've heard about that. And let's see. Okay, so formal top hat. I do have 4 species. One of them has not yet been revealed, but it will be soon. So keep your eyes open for that. It's a new addition. Let's see. So Forest Oasis, does adding yeast to a vivarium do anything? It can. It can. It depends on which form of yeast you're adding, how much you're adding, what's in the vivarium. For example, if you were to sprinkle a little bit of nutritional yeast in a bioactive vivarium with lots of isopods and springtails, they'd probably eat it. If you were to do the same thing with active baker's yeast, same thing. or brewer's yeast, any of those. Sprinkle a small amount in there. If there's isopods and springtails in there, that's probably what would happen. If you didn't have isopods and springtails and you did the same thing, it might end up molding. And if you put too much of especially the baker's yeast in there, it could cause some CO2 outgassing and cause some problems. So just depends. And Lacarte, how's Houdini? Great. He just ate a Pinky Mouse a few minutes ago. Right before the stream, I fed Rufus and Houdini. Rufus took 3 Pinkies, and Houdini just took 1. Houdini's never been as big an eater as the other snakes. He'll eat. He eats fine usually, but he's just never quite as hungry as the other 2. Ruby's in blue, so she didn't eat anything. So I knew she was in blue, so I only took 4 Pinkies out and thawed 4 Pinkies to know, because I figured she probably wouldn't eat, but if she showed up, I could give her one, because sometimes she will eat when she's in blue, but she didn't show up. So I gave 3 to Rufus, because that's what he wanted, and Houdini wanted 1, and that's what he wanted. But they're all doing great. I think Ruby is indeed pregnant, and I'm excited about that. And since this is she's in blue, and June 27th was about the time I first saw mating activity, it's possible that right after this shed, we're going to have babies. I'm really excited about that possibility. So, formal top hat. Cage for the velvetants. Can you keep a smaller one? Sure. Mine is actually only a 5.5 gallon low boy, so it's about the same footprint as a 10-gallon tank. But you can keep a smaller one. Just don't keep a huge amount of beetles. Depending on your size of beetles and so on, if you had like a tank that was half the size of mine, you could still do 6 to 8 beetles and maybe 3 or 4 velvet ants in there. As long as you have lots of things to climb on, you should be okay. So Forest Oasis, not so many liverworts anymore, huh? Angela, sometimes you can put terrestrial mosses in aquariums. Sometimes it works, especially if you have CO2, supplemental CO2, that can help. A lot of the mosses we grow in aquaria are actually terrestrial mosses, and definitely CO2 helps them grow faster, but not necessary, and it works with a lot of them. So Mystery Fin, the way I've got things set up today, probably can't do the Spirostreptus millipedes, but I'll try to do that soon on a live stream soon. And so Heather, I'm sorry, I don't know why YouTube's doing this, but it's holding a lot of your comments for review, and I'm trying to approve them when I see them, but I don't know why it's doing that. 2 are smaller, have mostly black abdomens, and the other 2 is large, fuzzy, and black and orange on its thorax and abdomen. Well, Horrific Dude, if you send me pictures, I may be able to help you identify them, and if I can't, I bet my cousin can. So if you want to, you can send me some on Instagram or something like that. Oh, Jordan, you had to release the mantis. I'm sorry to hear that. It was such a cool mantis. He found one on his, it was your back porch, was it? It was just kind of adopted him. So I'm sorry you had to release it. But I guess that's, good for the mantis too, but it was cool that you had it there. And Acadia Territory, I do keep geckos. And welcome. I keep morning geckos. I have a breeding colony of morning geckos that I've had for about 7 or 8 years. And I've got a leopard gecko we've had for probably 4 to 5 years. And we've got crested geckos, one of them which we've had for about 7 years. And the others are a little less than that. So yeah, we do have geckos. I've kept 1 Formicarium JH Aquatics. Years ago, I made it myself. Test tubes, plastic or acrylic containers, and aquarium tubing that I created out of that. Had it for about 3 years, collected the queen myself. She produced offspring and made a colony that I had for about that long. So newt, growing liverworts. In my experience, they do need a lot of humidity. They like good light. If you're growing them underwater, they like CO2, of course. Most of the ones that I've grown are pretty easy if they've got good light and high humidity. Those are probably the 2 biggest things. Oh, so JAA. Your Lucky Bamboo's doing well. That's nice to know. If you give your pothos a pole to climb it lightly fenestrator, get the slits pretty much identical to a Monstera deliciosa. I used to see those in Hawaii when I lived there. They'd climb the palm trees and do that, and it was really cool. liked it, and the leaves would get gigantic, like I don't know, like 1.5 feet long at least, maybe longer. So cool. So maybe I will do that. And Lacarte, that's awesome. You got a lot of cool morning geckos going on there. And Mixed Chalky, you can decorate millipede enclosures with live plants to some extent. I know a lot of the European keepers do that. But something that I've found is that if you want to do that and you want the millipedes to be visible and you want to make sure they have plenty of good substrate, it can be a tricky balance. So I just keep substrate and some bark and wood pieces. That's what I do. Okay, well, hopefully you didn't put a ton of yeast in their Forest Oasis, but it'll probably balance out eventually. Angela, I usually give most of my snake sheds to my isopods. I do. Like these, I just leave most of the sheds in there and the isopods just eat them. And I don't have a bioactive for this guy. So I just throw them in, although I do sometimes take pieces to make pendants out of, which is pretty cool. Let's see. And Horrific Dude, yeah, I'll keep an eye open for those pictures. Oh, Formal Top Hat. Yes, the Orchid Mantis. It was in my last live stream, so check it out. I did a spot at the beginning for the first half an hour or so of the live stream. I fed the Orchid Mantis on camera, close up on the Orchid Mantis. That's what I was focused on. It's pretty cool, so check that out. Really fun. It ate 3 flies on camera for us. And so Marcus Smallhouse, your powder oranges are going to start breeding really fast anyway, so I don't think you really need any tips, but just make sure you've got everything set up for them. Make sure they have a good moisture gradient. Make sure they have plenty of ventilation for powder oranges, because they really need a nice mossy spot, but they like a lot of their substrate to be dry, good pieces of bark, plenty of leaf litter, and ventilation. That'll get them going. Jelly bean isopods, I haven't kept those that particular morph, but I have kept the same species, and it's kind of the same thing, honestly. They like good ventilation, but they like a moist area too. And give them a little bit of fish food, some protein like that, a little bit of calcium, that should help get them going. Okay, Newt, it sounds like the liverworts will probably do pretty good next to that Arcadia Jungle Dawn. And Spirostreptus millipedes can live a fair bit of time. Like I had mine for 4 or 5 years and it was an adult when I got it. So that should give you an idea, Mr. E. Finn. Oh, Robert Gear in the house. Nice to see you here. So Joshua Zavala. Queen ant in a tube, having trouble getting her to transition into a new tube. Huh. Well, does she already have workers or not? It's been a while since I've done this, I gotta admit. So if they're Ant Scotland, if you're still in the house, if you have some better tips than I do, that might be good. I'm not sure what would be the best thing to do there. I know that they usually wait until they feel like there's a better deal somewhere else, and that's when they move. But anybody else? And yes, Springtails love brewer's yeast. I give mine a staple diet, including a lot of nutritional yeast, which is similar. I love snakes. I love snakes. One of my absolute favorite pets. So I'm with you, 3-Peter. Peat moss substrate and huge Wardian case was pretty heavily planted. That's where I have my ivory millipedes. Supplemental feed so your plants don't get eaten. Yeah, that makes sense. And do you put leaf litter in there too, Heather? Oh, yeah, Formal Top Hat. That was super recent. That was just last week. What was the hardest pet to convince your wife to allow you to get? Probably a centipede, honestly. I remember when I wanted to get a centipede, my son wanted a centipede, and just talking to her about it, she was really freaked out about a centipede. She's fine now with centipedes, but at the time it was tricky. She thought it was going to get out and everything, and that is a valid concern if you don't have the proper enclosure. They are excellent escape artists. You need a very deep, a very smooth enclosure that locks down. The lids locks down. Okay. Let's see. And Toilet Pete, Armadillidium werneri. I've heard they're tricky and that their mortality can be kind of high, but I haven't kept any, so I'm hesitant to give you tips because I haven't kept them yet, but I've just read that they're kind of tricky, and but they are beautiful. Oh, good idea, Ignorant Ice. That makes sense. So this tank behind me, this is my, it's a 40-gallon breeder that's got a breeding trio of garter snakes, reverse trio. It's got a male, I have 2 males and a female, and I believe the female is pregnant now. This is set up with the Biodude substrate, and the ferns came from Biodude. This little plant here, it was an adventive, just showed up. And there's a snake plant, appropriately enough, growing in the corner there, but you probably can't see that. But I really like it. I love the garter snakes that live in there. And there's also a bunch of Armadillidium klugi Montenegro isopods in there that are really doing well. They're breeding quite a lot in there. So Angela, I would avoid anything from like an evergreen cedar, pine, fir kind of tree, as well as I try to avoid things like cherry, because I'm not sure if cherry is good, because I know that in some cases cherry can be toxic, so I've avoided that. But generally, one thing that there's a lot of leaves that are toxic when they are fairly fresh, but by the time they're dry, they're not so toxic, like walnut. I get walnut leaves to my isopods that are dry and have fallen naturally, and they're fine. I wouldn't give them green walnut leaves, so that helps too. Hopefully that's kind of an answer. Have you used any moss with lichen? I have some that seems to just attract fungus gnats. It does look really cool. Whoa, that's kind of tight, buddy. Oh, you're playing back there, okay. I haven't tried that though. Oh, JAA. Got your first California king snake. Those are pretty awesome. Oh, I see what you're saying, Joshua. Yeah, I like the light idea. Put light on that tube and then darken up the others. Huh. So Heather Jensen, that sounds interesting. That's some good tips. And I think, Newt, if there's a lot of condensation on the lid, that might be a little bit, yeah, that might be a little bit of a problem. It probably wouldn't block all of the light, but it might actually mean you've got too much humidity in there. Possibly. I mean, here, wow, you're getting creative. My snake is getting real creative. He's crawling into the stand here. So, you know what? I'm going to need to get this guy out, and it might be tricky. So, I had better go in a second because I have another video to record, and I've gone a little bit over, but I don't mind because it's been fun to talk to you. So thank you for the chat, and I'm going to extricate my corn snake from the aquarium stand here, and thanks for joining in. Catch you later.